He made a despairing gesture. "How do I know?" he said. She'd wanted to go. Wanted it for years. I never blamed her much, although I didn't like her. But Lizzie is different. She didn't want to go. Why should she leave what's been her home for more than 30 years? There's something very queer there, Lou. He got up. "Well, I'll take that rotten sheet and get out," he said. "I've still got to take my sleuth for his walk before I go to bed." He took the paper and went away. I had read it, and its implication was plain enough. But both George and I were wrong that night. The tabloid contained only a part of what he called the great secret, and we were to have another tragedy before we learned the rest of it. Chapter 43. If George Talbot was tired and dirty that night, he was nothing to Herbert when, at 9:30, he rang the doorbell. He had abandoned all pretension to being other than he was, and that Annie appreciated this was shown by the avidity with which she agreed to bring him the tray of any sort of food she had, which he asked for. "I hope you don't mind, Lou," he said. "I haven't eaten today, and tonight I'm worried." "That's feeble for the way I feel." "Where's your mother?" "She's in bed. I'm afraid she is sulking." He ignored that and at once stated his intention of spending the night in the house, and on guard. "On guard? Here?" I asked. "Where else? In the first place, I want to be sure you're safe." "That's vital. But in the second place, so long as our killer thinks there are dangerous prints in that album, and thinks that that album is here, there may be other attempts to get it." He went on to explain, leaning back like the tired man he was, in his big chair. There were new lines on his face, and he looked fairly exhausted. I cannot recall all that he said. It had something to do with the fact that a carefully premeditated killing like that of Mrs. Lancaster implied more than the sequence of events leading to it. It meant another sequence to follow it, and this sequence could only be planned in advance. If then any part of this following sequence was altered, even in the smallest degree, every other part of it was changed. In this case the album had slipped, or it was the gloves perhaps. They were too clumsy, the wearer could not take something badly wanted out of the album. The gloves had to be abandoned and an attempt made to tear out the page. But the page was mounted on cloth, and time was at a premium. Then there was probably an alarm of some sort. That might have been when the desperate attempt was made to raise the screen. Whatever it was, The original plan had slipped then and there, and with it all the rest of the sequences which had been meant to follow. Annie brought the tray about that time, and he ate like a famished man. I had asked no questions, and I let him finish in silence. It was after he had pushed away the tray that he came over and put a hand on my shoulder. "What a restful person you are, Lou," he said. "And when this is all over?" Annie came back for the tray then, and whatever he had meant to say never was finished. He was absorbed in our crimes again, the lone wolf, in spite of his disclaimer, still following an idea of his own against the open cynicism of Inspector Briggs. What he maintained, and what has since been accepted as a fact, was as follows. On the day of Mrs. Lancaster's death, an unknown person had gained access to the house. The method was still in doubt, although he himself was fairly sure of it. At some previous time this unknown had visited the housemaid's closet on the second floor, and after tying a long cord to a pipe there, had slipped it under the window screen, where it hung concealed beside or behind the tin drain pipe from the roof. If discovered, it would mean little or nothing. If not discovered, it offered a practical method of bringing the axe into the house. That Thursday was chosen because it was the housemaid's day out, and the closet would presumably be undisturbed that afternoon. Having then got into the house and being concealed there and probably locked in, one of two courses was followed.